You're a Bream wanker, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Fucking fluff chucker.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Deep Drop. It's a fishing podcast hosted by me, Luke McCredden, and my good friend Adam Ring. Adam, how you doing, bud?
I'm good. It's a fun podcast, Luke, and we're about to change things up a bit, which I'm excited for.
We are. We've got a bit of a different episode lined up tonight, Ads. I'm looking forward to it. We've been thrown a bit of a challenge, and that is to put a few fish species head-to-head to find out which one's better. It'll all make sense once we start doing it, but I think we've got a bit of a task on our hands here.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. I've had a sneak peek at the list, and let's just say most of these games will be going to Game 7.
Yeah, yeah, well played, absolutely. Anyway, it is The Deep Drop, and welcome. And if you're new here, it's great to have you on board. There's plenty of episodes prior to this that you can jump on and go back through and have a bit of a listen to. But if you're back, if you've heard a few already and you've come back, well, that's good. We haven't scared you off yet, so welcome back.
We're working on it.
Yeah, and we appreciate it. So don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends to subscribe wherever they find their podcasts. And, of course, jump on Instagram. Share the conversation. We love it. We love hearing from everyone. Oh, and, of course, there is a playlist on Spotify, not just the podcast. There is The Deep Drop Fishing Tunes playlist, which is full of bangers, Ads.
Just banger after banger, and my Deep Drop Fishing Tunes Artist of the Week.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Goes to Marilyn Manson this week.
Oh, Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson, he was my introduction to, one of introductions to heavy music, and reliving some of the good old tunes on the Deep Drop Fishing Tunes playlist.
Love that.
Get amongst it.
Love that. Go and check that out as well as all the other podcast episodes. But for now, Ads, we've got a job to do. Let's get stuck into it. Snapper or Mulloway?
Battle of the Victorian Titans, straight up.
I like this one. This is a good contest.
This is difficult. Now, Luke, just to throw it out there early, we're going to score them on a few different criteria and see if we can get a unanimous winner at the end of it. I'm not guaranteeing that we will.
No.
but we'll certainly try. So, Snapper.
We'll also be asking
Mulloway,
and relying fairly heavily on you, the listener, to get in touch with us and on the Instagram tile that has this head-to-head and give us your thoughts and why. So, but anyway, that's the theme this episode. So, Ads, I'll throw it back to you. Let's dive in. Snapper versus Mulloway.
Snapper or Mulloway? Let's talk about catching them first.
Yeah.
Because depending on which angle you want to tackle it from, I think you could get clear winners either way. I would prefer to catch Mulloway. I think they fight better. I think they're more entertaining to target. But I'm kind of leaning towards Snapper for catch because they're more accessible.
You're being lazy.
Yeah, 100%. I don't want to try too hard. But I'm trying to take the romance out of each species.
Yeah.
Mulloway have got such this, secret silver, unicorn of the estuaries. Like it's almost a myth, this fish. So take that. If you take that out, the fight to catch them in general is really quite similar.
Yeah.
Long run, head shakes, back to the boat, another run. You might get a little bit more of a sustained run out of a Mulloway, whereas Snapper, couple of runs, couple of stop, head shake, and you can generally knock them over.
Yeah, and then, it comes down to technique a little bit too, because one of my favourite things to do is catch snapper on lures, like soft plastics in particular. And typically, it's not overly heavy gear, so you get a nice one on a plucky and it can last a decent fight. So I'm sort of leaning towards that for catch as far as, the way you go about it and the enjoyment of the fight. But again, I've certainly caught far more snapper than I have Mulloway. So maybe that's got something to do with it too. But, the other aspect of it, it's not just all about catching and fighting. Like, what about edibility?
Well, this is an interesting one because I've never eaten Mulloway.
No, I haven't either.
I've heard it's really good, but the opposite to snapper. So with snapper, if you're going to eat them, I'd say the smaller ones within legal to 40, 50 centimeters, kilo and a half, are the best ones to eat.
Panties.
As they get bigger, they get a little bit mushy. You lose a little bit of what little flavour they have. You start to lose it. Whereas with Mulloway, remember they used to call the estuary Mulloway soapies?
Yes.
Because they can taste like soap.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
So the opposite to a Mulloway, the bigger they are, the better they eat.
Fascinating.
But,
I reckon there'd be certainly people that can give us their thoughts on eating bigger Mulloway because, as you said, it's not something either of us have done. So it's a hard one to judge on that particular line. But neither, I would probably be, I think it's fair to say, neither are overly spoken about or sought after as an eating fish, are they?
No, that's right. Yeah, that's right. That's a fair call.
Well, one other element we should look at is just simply the look of the fish. Now, in their own right, very different looking fish. Both look pretty cool. But I must say, Mulloway have got something about them that they look really special. When you see those dots light up down their lateral line and their big, powerful tail, they're pretty cool looking fish.
Yep. It's not even close for me. I would pick a Mulloway. Now, snapper, gorgeous. You get a new season snapper where those crimsons are real dark.
And the
You've got
blues
these
come
bright
up
blue fins and the flute. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't think the variation you can get some snapper that are quite dull, or some of the old ones look a bit ratty.
Yep.
I don't think I've ever seen a ratty Mulloway. Like even in a photo, you see those big 30 kilo Mulloway. They don't necessarily look ratty.
Yeah, and just to put my 2 cents in on this, I've caught quite a few snapper up the south coast of New South Wales and down, even eastern Victoria. The big knobby head ones, I fucking hate the look of them. I reckon they're ugly as hell. It's an absolute no from me. And people go, "Oh, check it out! It's got a big knob on its head." I'm like, gross.
Yes. Yeah, same. So, give me a nice clean snapper any day of the week.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first one. Looks wise is the first one I give straight to a Mulloway. I don't even think about it.
Yeah, cool. One of the other, I suppose, aspects is when you think about where you're catching these fish. So location plays a part. When I think about what I love to catch, I always think about where I've got to go to do it, and Port Phillip Bay, catching snapper, or offshore even, wherever you are. I love to be there, love to do it, but it's not that exciting. Whereas when I think about Mulloway, you're usually in an estuary system. Usually it's, let's face it, Victoria have some beautiful estuaries. Wherever you go, I feel like that's a better location for me to go fishing.
Yeah, I'm with you, but I think that's probably more down to a personal preference. So could I throw it to you this way? Does snapper get an edge because of you can find a more diverse range to catch them in? So whether it's Port Phillip Bay or you cruise out offshore and sit on some of the reefs there, or then you cruise to, say, South Coast, New South Wales, Southern Queensland, where they're catching them on offshore bommies, which I'm sure would be a completely different experience to catching them, say, in Port Phillip Bay. Well, even Western Port, completely different.
Yep. Well, can I throw, to mix it up for the Mulloway, a beach in South Australia, banging big Mulloway, that's pretty special.
That is cool.
Yeah, it sounds like we're kind of torn here. I'm leaning towards Mulloway for a location point of view. And
I'm leaning towards Mulloway more because I enjoy the peacefulness you get from an estuary. And I know you can target Mulloway in Western Port or Port Phillip Bay, or you don't hear too much of them being targeted offshore from a beach. None of that stuff really, gets me as far as the romance of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I'd probably give the edge to Mulloway just for that.
Yeah. Okay. What about method? Like as far as actual tackle and technique and method to catch, I think, you can, this is a certain, well, I mean, a lot of species have this same sort of argument, but there is an element of you can make it as boring as you want, or you can really make it as exciting and hands-on and active and physical as you want. This is a tricky one because I've done, as we've said off the top, a lot more snapper fishing than Mulloway fishing. But my favourite form of snapper fishing is when it is very much connected the whole time. So you're lure fishing, you're jigging, you're soft baiting, you're whatever it may be. But I kind of then just think about, I don't really think about Mulloway bait fishing. I know live baiting is a really, really effective technique, but it's not something I'm all that interested in doing. The lure side of things, 100%. But then, yeah, I don't know. Where are you at with this? Because I'm still really torn.
I don't know. I'm weirdly leaning towards snapper, only because in my brain, I think I've got, okay, there's more ways, more fun and interesting ways I could target a snapper. But apart from jigging, I could do that with Mulloway. Soft plastics, dead baits, live baits, butterfly baits.
Even trolling to a degree, like that, both can be said. I know a lot of people troll lures or live baits for Mulloway, and the same with snapper.
Yep, I think it's kind of neck and neck.
It is, isn't it? It is, and across the board, it's been pretty close with this one. I feel like it's almost come down, going back to one of the points we mentioned, which was what's a better looking fish, and Mulloway sort of stood out for us both, and that might have almost got it over the line, ads.
Well, for two fish that I would think are so completely different, you run through each little category like that, they're actually quite similar.
They are very similar. Yeah.
From how a fisho would tackle it, they're quite a similar fish. So I think just solely for the prize factor, I think I'm going to go with Mulloway.
Okay, let's lock in Mulloway. But again, this is just us, so let's hear it over to you, the listener. It was a lot closer than I thought it would be. I thought Mulloway was going to absolutely piss this in. Yeah.
But after breaking it down, it's actually not as far apart as what I thought it would be.
But that's good. That's what it's about. So again, over to you, the listener. Let us know your thoughts. And I think we're going to get a whole lot of different ideas and thoughts on this one, which is great. So please don't hesitate. Don't hold back. Tell us everything. Give us your feedback on any of the things we've said. If we said something that you're like, you're an idiot, which is highly possible. You wouldn't be the first.
Probably get more votes for that.
You wouldn't be the first. All right, let's move on to the next.
Bream or trout?
Ooh, brims or trouts? Another tough one straight off the bat. It's an awesome one. What I love about this one is very different, just to think about loosely off the top. Obviously one's a freshwater species and one's not. But when I'm already starting to think about some of the arguments in the last segment. I'm just starting to get confused already. But, mate, I think this is a good one for you and I. We've both done a lot of fishing for both of these species. So, look, just simply what I prefer to go and target to catch at the moment, like in this point of my life, is probably trout. I enjoy trout, but let's break it down a bit. What, just off the top, just when you first see these two species, what are your thoughts?
To catch, bream, 100%.
Yeah.
There's just something about trying to drag a bream out of a snag.
Yeah.
On a lure. So completely different to bait fishing. If we were bait fishing for them, I'd almost put them neck and neck.
Yeah, good call.
I don't do a lot of bait fishing for either species. It's generally done on lures, and I think bream fishing on lures is a hell of a lot more exciting and entertaining for me personally.
Yeah, and I think even just if we throw into the mix the fight, because I think it's fair to say, with all due respect, trout don't do a lot. Yeah, they go a bit crazy early on, but bream Bream can take you and do you in snags and so forth. Whereas I don't feel like trout are really that sort of species. Maybe.
Yeah,
I mean,
fair.
in a lot of circumstances they will, and they'll put you into some, hard sort of situations. But I think, fishing snags for bream and that sort of thing can be tough, and you really got to drag them out, and they'll put up a fight, which I like.
Though I think catching trout probably has the prestige factor.
Yeah.
There's something always special about catching a trout, whether it's a stream trout, whether it's, something out of a big body of water, like a big impoundment, like, Purrumbete or Bull and Merrow, something like that.
Big dirty Crater Lake.
Yeah, it has, but it's got a different sort of feel about it, which I'd probably give to trout. I'd prefer to catch bream, but I think trout has them in the romance of it in actually catching them.
What about if you were to cook them up, Ads?
Trout every day of the week.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge trout fan. Smoked trout, love it.
Yeah.
But I think just to pan fry them, neither of them are great.
No, but
So
I think
I'd pick trout.
if you had to do your best sort of recipe or best technique to cook them up, smoking a trout would be it. And I think they are fairly above and beyond what we can do with the bream. As far as presentation, mate, I'm heavily in favour of a trout. I love the look of a trout, whether it be a little brown from a little skinny water stream or a big fat rainbow from a lake or a river. I just love the look of trout.
I agree totally. I don't even think it's close.
No.
And bream, gorgeous.
Yeah,
You can get a really diverse way that you can, like, sometimes they're really dark. If they're up high in a very brackish system, they can almost be black back, bronze flanks. If they're down the front of a system in that beautiful salt, clean water, they can be almost silver. I think bream genuinely are a good-looking fish.
Totally. Yeah.
Nothing like a trout. I would argue with someone that a brown trout is not one of the best-looking fish that you can catch.
Mate, I agree with you. And taking into account some of the tropical species from up north, some of the everything, it would have to be if not on top, in the top couple.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah,
I think
agree
Trout's
with
got
you.
this one
Stunning.
easily.
One of the other points to judge on is where you find these fish, the locations to go to find these fish. And this is where I struggle just at first glance at that point. This is a real struggle for me because the idea of walking a freshwater stream, wading, in that peaceful surrounding, looking for a trout, or fishing a big lake where it's nice and still and everything, it's magic. But then you get up high into an estuary system where there's no one around. You're either in a boat or on foot or in a kayak or whatever you're doing. It's hard to beat that feeling of where you are at that time as well. This is a really tough one for me.
I don't think, as far as location goes, I don't think there can be a winner. Because I get exactly the same sense of being up a still, quiet estuary on a kayak as I do walking a what seems to be untouched river for trout. I get exactly the same feeling. And that's what I would prefer to do over any other forms of fishing.
If you dropped me in either scenario right now, I'd be satisfied. So it doesn't.
That's right.
That's the way I see it.
I'm at peace in either location.
Yeah. As far as method and technique and gear and tackle, again, very similar. And obviously you can catch both these species in very different ways, as far as multiple ways per species. So to break it down, I guess you mentioned before bait fishing. Well, both can be exciting if it's something you're into. I'm not necessarily one to bait fish for either, but if we start talking about lure fishing, and obviously the fly anglers, no, actually we don't have fly anglers that listen to this because you put them off in episode 1 or 2. Yeah. but if there are some, give us your thoughts on it. But mate, where do you sit here? Because both very fun techniques and methods and ways to catch these fish.
Yeah.
Hard to split.
Because I am actually allergic to fly fishing, I'm gonna take that out of the equation.
Yeah.
Which is unfair, but it's happening.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to bream solely on excitement factor, and it's not really a method thing. It's probably more to do with location than it is an actual method, because you can catch bream and trout on plastics hard bodies.
Yep.
I'm going to give it to bream because there's a wider range with top water and snag fishing, which you don't typically do for trout. That's the only reason I'm going to give it to bream. I think you've got a wider array of exciting ways to catch them, with a massive asterisk because I have conveniently excluded fly fishing from my answer because it's too hard. I can't do it.
I reckon there's fly fishermen out there that target bream. So, so they're both covered. But, I mean, obviously, traditionally, trout are the ones. I think I'm a little bit with you on this. And if you're just at real basic level, say you can catch both on soft plastics, both on hard bodies, there's that. But then it's kind of like, I don't know, I feel like there's slightly more options and more techniques that you can really utilise bream fishing. And so I think I'm kind of with you there on that. It's another really tricky one, isn't it? And I think we'll get some really good thoughts on this. Well, I hope we do. So jump onto Instagram, bream or trout, and why. But just going back through everything we've said, I'm not sure there's a definitive winner in our arguments.
If you had to pick one though, where are you leaning?
Right now, trout.
I'm leaning bream.
Yeah, I thought you would be. I'm really enjoying chasing some trout in some local rivers at the moment. So yeah, I'm content fishing hard bodies for trout quite often, and I love it. So I'm sitting with trout, and mate, you don't have to agree with me.
I'm going to go with bream.
Yep.
And
no, that's good. All right,
I'm going to.
Good.
It's just I can't switch it off.
You're a bream wanker, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Fucking fluff chucker.
Tuna or kingfish?
My first initial thoughts on this, Luke, are tuna or kingfish is basically the same as bream or trout, just in a different setting.
Yeah, different water. Same, but different.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a fair call.
Yeah.
Fair call.
I think this one's the catching part of it. I think this is the easiest out of all the 6 species that we've mentioned in this podcast. I think this one's the easiest out of the 2 to pick for catch. Mm-hmm. And it's kingfish.
Yeah. I do agree.
I never feel as though I'm going to get obliterated by a bluefin.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. So it's game on from the second you get tight with a kingfish.
And I think we've established on the podcast in a previous episode with Hardy that it's probably more reputation than actual substance with kingfish.
Yeah, true.
But I'm still giving it to kingfish over tuna.
Yeah, I look at it like this, and you have probably heard me say this many times. The strike of a kingfish on a jig or a stick bait or even a live bait, I cannot get enough of it. And in fact, I know people get sick of jigging pretty quick because it's hard work, but I cannot. The strike, the way kingfish hits a jig and that feeling of just getting the whole world stopping as you just get jammed into a kingfish, it can't be beaten for me at the moment. I just absolutely love everything about it. The other way to look at it too is typically you're hands-on connected rod and reel when you do hook up, whereas a tuna, unless you're casting lures at them, which lots of people do, but it's not as common. It's more very much driving along and then hearing the reel sizzle and then go grab it, which is great and it's exciting. Don't get me wrong, it's awesome. That look of that rod buckled over as you're trolling along is pretty awesome,
mate.
But even
trolling
stick baits,
trolling is a flat out yawn fest. Admit it.
The hookup is exciting, but the trolling until the hookup is. Let's be the first people to openly admit it. It's shit.
Yeah, it's fucking boring.
Everyone agrees, but no one will say it. The idea of sitting on the back of a boat, sitting there waiting, just inhaling fumes out of your outboard or inboard motor until you get to the point. Usually, this just the up and down of the swell and a bit of chop. It's just there's not much enjoyable about it. But I will say, just on the catching part too, the popularity of catching, particularly here at the moment with southern bluefin tuna, on surface or subsurface stick baits, poppers, that sort of thing. I still don't think that strike from a tuna is even close to that of a kingfish.
Do you know what's really funny about this topic? 3 years ago, if you were to say you were going to target a species on top water at a tuna or kingfish, which one is it going to be? 100% answer would have been kingfish. Is it funny that fast forward 3 years, there would be more top water fishing in Bass Strait being done for bluefin tuna than kingfish?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
But then to double down and say it's more reliable to catch a bluefin on top water in Bass Strait than it is a kingfish. That's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. No one would have been saying that not longer. Yeah, so look, I'm sticking fat on this one with kingfish.
Oh, yeah, I think as well. I think it's easy.
Now, this next part is, I reckon, very interesting. So we're talking about eating. We're talking about the qualities and the ways you can cook these fish up or not and just eat them. Because I've always enjoyed kingfish, sashimi, or cooked. But there's something about tuna that it's pretty special when done right.
Oh, not what I expected you to say.
Yeah, I do. When it's done right, and I emphasise that because I think we can sort of just have tuna and do whatever. That's great. But when you do it right or get it done right, it's pretty good.
Oh. See, I went kingfish by a flat out landslide.
Okay, that's okay.
Because tuna, sashimi, unbelievable. Cooked, straight up dog shit.
What about sashimi head to head? Because kingfish sashimi is stunning.
So good. It's so different to tuna.
It's so good different. It's so good we had some on the way back in from a trip.
Yeah.
So I think you were on that boat.
As fresh as it gets.
But it's different, isn't it?
It is different.
So,
that's hard. I probably couldn't pick one because they're so good and so different. And this is why I give it to kingfish. Because cooked kingfish is a million times better than cooked tuna. I don't care how you do it.
Yeah, okay. See, I'm not as big there's not a bigger gap for me. I think it's, maybe, but I think equally they're good cooked without being great, if that makes sense. So I think if done right, they're both sensational. But there's not a massive. We're not talking about a huge gap, in my opinion.
Well, maybe because the only cooked tuna I've ever had has been cooked by myself, and it was shit.
Well, there's your first problem.
But I think it's easier to muck up tuna than it is kingfish.
Probably. Yeah. Okay. Look, I'm happy with sitting on the fence a bit, but I'm happy to lean that one towards kingfish for sure.
Oh, yeah, I'm going kingy. Easy.
What about simply the look of these fish? Both beautiful in their own right, very different. One's typically longer, a bit more slender, very different as far as tail and head shapes go and even colour. I've always, since I was a little kid, absolutely loved the look of a yellowtail kingfish. And that's where I'm at for this answer. What about yourself?
Me too, solely based on colour. And listen, a bluefin... See a bluefin swimming around in the water when you've caught it, you haven't netted it or gaffed it yet. They are stunning in their own right. The fact that everything folds down perfectly, they are literally like underwater missiles. They're always tanky, little nuggets of muscle.
Yeah.
And then the bigger ones, obviously, they don't call them barrels for nothing.
Yeah.
Only over 100 kilos, just saying.
So we established that, episode 1. The argument I would have is if we're including yellowfin tuna, because I reckon they're one of the most beautiful fish in the ocean.
Yeah.
So
that's If we're including yellowfin, I'm going to give it to tuna.
Straight up. I'm still again, maybe it's the romance of the history of it, but I can't kingfish, I just love them. But yellowfin tuna, what a stunning looking fish.
That's a really tough little sub question because they're so completely different looking, every aspect of them.
Yeah, because then you can throw in like albacore. They just look stupid.
Yeah. They...
So that brings it down, the average down again. It went from southern bluefin tuna being sort of mid-range. Yeah, now they're fine. Yellowfin, awesome. Albacore, dumb. It just brought the average so much down, so far down. I don't know. For the sake of the argument, where most of our audience, and let us know if you're not, but are typically Victorian-based. We know this from some of the analytics we get. So let's say southern bluefin tuna for this argument.
Then I'll say kingfish.
Yeah. As far as location, where to find these fish, where you're fishing for them, both offshore species, yes, you get kingfish in some inshore waters, a lot of inshore waters in some cases, but predominantly we're talking about offshore and reefs for kingfish and then open water for tuna, both of which I love being offshore. I love it. But I would argue a lot of the tuna fishing you're doing, there's not much to look at because you're fair way out and, not knocking the open ocean. I love it. It's something about it is really special. But when you're fishing, and a lot of places you're fishing for kingfish feature some sort of land structure, whether it be a headland or just typical coastal, coast with bommies coming off it or a random big giant island in the middle of the ocean. Mate, that's the location I want to be fishing.
That's the answer. Because unlike you, Luke.
I thought you were about to walk off then. That's the answer?
That's the answer.
And I'm done.
Nah, because the whole I love offshore, it's shit. You're essentially... It's the blue desert, mate.
Nah,
unless there's whales and stuff around, like there's some cool shit going on, it's boring. I don't get it.
I love being offshore because you will rarely have a day offshore when you don't see something cool. Now, that could be as simple as, a huge busting up school of fish like tuna or whatever, or, whales, dolphins, big sharks.
Yeah, that's different. That's different.
Well, it sounds like you hate offshore.
I do.
But tell me, like when you see basically anywhere you're gonna go fishing for kingfish, especially on those. But when you're talking inshore reefs, coastal headlands and that, the one thing you always say is, "Oh, that looks fishy."
Yes,
don't you? Like it's always got that feel about it, and for that, that's the answer.
Yeah, king's easy. Easy.
Fuck, kingfish are dominating.
Not the blue desert that the tuna tend to be in.
All right, let's talk about methods, techniques.
Maybe this one wasn't as close as what I thought it would be.
No, it's not. It's a blowout. It's a blowout.
This is a sweep. Swept.
This reminds me of the 2022 AFL Grand Final. Yeah. It's been an absolute blowout since we started talking about it. But the method and the gear, I mean, again,
kingfish.
Bit of a kingfish junkie, and I love, you and I collectively have way too much kingfish tackle. But yeah, again, look, I'll say this: I love casting lures, whether they be plastics, topwater lures, whatever, and I love jigging for kingfish. And I even enjoy live baiting. Yes, you can do all of that for tuna, but do you typically? No.
Oh, even the topwater thing is not a way you would go. It just seems to be something that's taken off a little bit here in Bass Strait, which is unbelievable. Yep. I think it's awesome. I think it's revolutionised bluefin for our backyard because, if you were just towing around, which 95% of the time that's what people are still doing, but they do bust up a lot out here, whereas the kingfish don't. That's what I'm saying. If you wanted to catch one of these fish on a topwater in Victoria, tuna would be the one you'd target on topwater. But I think overall as a species, just for the diversity in methods, kingfish. Anything
The lures
you
are
can
cool,
think
the
of.
jigs are cool.
Anything you can think
everything's
of,
cool.
you can legitimately target a kingfish with.
And just to bring yellowfin and maybe albacore back into the mix for a minute, cubing, you can jam it straight up
I've never
your ass.
done it.
I'm not interested.
Do you know what it seems to me, Luke? Go out into the blue desert and park your car. Like,
it's exactly that. But not only just park your car, while you're parked, get out on the bonnet and just cut up small bits of pilchard for the next 5 to 6 hours and hope that someone comes and eats one. And it's not just it's just dropping one in every now and then. And oh no.
so having said that,
I'm
though,
done.
if you actually do get yellowfin, but if you do get them come up the trail and you can see them carving through that, carving through the trail and eating cubes of pilchard bits and pieces, that would get pretty exciting.
Yeah, it has to happen in the first 15 minutes.
Fair.
No, you're right. No, for sure. And it's a really productive way to do it. There's no doubt. And I wonder how many people do it nowadays, though, given the amount of technology there is as far as like boating electronics and that sort of thing. I don't know if many people are even doing it. But,
I don't think the fishery's been there as hardcore as what it used to be to even warrant giving it a go. I could be wrong. I don't know.
And a fish locally like the southern bluefin tuna, you don't need to. You're basically looking for them and going, yep, there they are. Or they're in this area, let's troll around for a bit.
Pretty safe to say Kingfish pissed this in, Luke.
It's a whitewash. It really is. Yellowtail kingfish. Don't let us sway you, though. It's over to you now again, as it has been all episode. Listeners, let us know. Let us know if we've missed something here and the tuna are being unfairly dealt with, perhaps. Whatever it may be. But either way, or are you agreeing? Are you saying kingfish all the way? We'd love to hear it and why. But yeah, look, I think it's a bit of a no-brainer, this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go kingy pretty easily.
All right, so to wrap things up, I've really enjoyed doing this style of episode, by the way. So, if you want to hear a bit more of this sort of stuff, let us know. And maybe you've got some fish that you want us to put head to head to go at. I think there's another few episodes in this. But to summarise, I think kingfish have led the way against tuna. I'm sticking fat with trout against Bream. You're going Bream ads. And I think we went with Mulloway just over a
like
snapper.
Literally just. It probably...
Yeah. Just by a knobby head.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's good. That's good. Well, let's bring another half a dozen species into the mix next time round. I think we can... Yeah, let us know if you've got some suggestions. I'm already thinking of some, but I'm just gonna.
Yeah, I'd
jot them down.
I'd love some suggestions from the listeners out there.
Yeah.
What two species should we crap on about for 5 minutes to see if they're gonna battle it out?
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Don't forget to share it with your friends. Tell your mates. Tell your mum and dad. Tell your auntie and uncle. Tell that weird kid at school that you met yesterday. He just moved here from WA. Tell whoever you want. And get them to subscribe. Get them to follow the Instagram page. Get them to listen to the Deep Drop Fishing Tunes. There's a lot to ask, but it's not that much. Get them to do it. They will.
It's worth it.
It's fine. Anyway, that's us for another week. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back. And, get fishing. Get out there. Go on.